The fountain pen halts mid-stroke over the merger papers, black ink spreading across the page. Through the phone on my desk, Miranda from Elegant Affairs Events speaks with a careful tone of someone bearing bad news. Ms. Harrison, your family has requested we remove your name from the attendance list. I stare out at the Chicago skyline through my window, a view that typically reminds me of my achievements. 42 floors high, commanding a city where my business now manages 15 high-end properties. Traffic lights pulse below like a heartbeat. The world moves on while I remain frozen in shock. This must be an error, I respond, voice more controlled than the shaking beginning in my hands. I gave $55,000 toward my sister's celebration. Yes, well, Miranda hesitates. I was informed those funds were treated as a gift without strings. The documents in front of me, a $6 million property purchase that would push Harrison Enterprises into our 6th region, suddenly feel meaningless compared to this betrayal. The funds have been distributed to service providers. Miranda goes on, tension in her voice. Your parents stated explicitly this had been arranged with you. The pen creates another ink blot as my grip tightens. Half a year ago, I'd quietly wired the money after hearing Rebecca worrying about expenses at Sunday brunch. We may have to simplify things, she'd murmured to our mother in the hallway. I'd acted like I hadn't heard, returning to the living area where my father praised my brother-in-law's advancement to division manager. That's genuine work, Dad had announced, lifting his drink. When discussion shifted to my acquisition of 2 winery estates, Dad had smiled. Victoria is still amusing herself with party planning, but she seems to enjoy it. I hadn't challenged him. Hadn't revealed the 7-figure income or my expansion across 5 regions. Instead, I transferred the money the following day, believing achievement would eventually prove itself. Send me documentation of how my contribution was spent, I tell Miranda now, my tone turning to the temperature I use for challenging deals. Ms. Harrison, I'm certain your parents. Miranda's nervous breath carries through the line. Your parents confirmed this was discussed with you. I don't wish to be positioned between family members. This concerns business, not family, I reply. My trembling has ceased. I access my firm's supplier records on my second screen, fingers moving with renewed determination. You'll receive the breakdown within 60 minutes. Certainly, Ms. Harrison. I press the desk button immediately after hanging up. Rachel, connect me with Christine in our legal department, please. Not my parents, not Rebecca, not the explosive argument they might anticipate. The Harrison family instilled one lesson thoroughly. Influence commands more attention than feelings. I stand and approach the window, placing my hand on the cold surface. Briefly, my reflection shows what I conceal during executive meetings. The younger sister perpetually seeking validation. The daughter whose accomplishments go unrecognized. The stranger observing her own family from outside. A tear almost forms, but I force it back before it can emerge. 20 minutes to regain composure before Christine arrives. 20 minutes to accept that my only sister's celebration might transform into the ultimate confrontation in a conflict I never chose. The Chicago skyline blurs momentarily before I make myself concentrate on the structures my company controls. The properties where other families mark their occasions. The domain I've constructed while mine kept overlooking me. I straighten my posture and return to my workstation. The contract requires my approval. Expansion, development, achievement, none of it sufficient to earn their recognition. But now they may have no alternative. The email from Elegant Affairs arrives with clinical politeness. I sit at my computer, fingers suspended above the keys, heartbeat accelerating as I review each entry. Per our discussion with Thomas and Margaret Harrison, we're delighted to confirm their generous contribution covering all major vendor costs for Rebecca's celebration. My hand presses my chest as though physically restraining the growing understanding. Their generous contribution, not mine. I steady myself, accessing our vendor system. 3 searches later, there it is. Confirmation more painful than the exclusion itself. Every wedding supplier for Rebecca's event exists in my network database. Sterling Florals, Lakeview Catering, Anderson Photography, all subsidiaries or partners of Harrison Enterprises. My device chimes with an alert. I open the screen to discover a group message among my parents, Rebecca, and her fiancé reviewing wedding arrangements from 3 weeks prior. A conversation I was never included in, despite financing everything. Proof not of accidental oversight, but intentional exclusion. I've scheduled the ice display delivery for 4 o'clock, my mother wrote. My father replied, the Harrison family celebrates with distinction. Indeed we do. 30 minutes pass before Christine and David enter my executive boardroom, expressions professionally blank as they take seats. I stand at the table's head, posture rigid as the legal documents projected behind me. The agreements are airtight, Christine says, adjusting her glasses precisely. All vendors may terminate services with 3 weeks' notice. No financial penalties. David clears his throat. There's additional information you need. He slides a folder across the polished surface. Elegant Affairs Events became a Harrison Enterprises acquisition last month. The documentation was completed 2 days ago. And the location? Ask though the answer is clear. Meadowbrook Manor is owned by Summit Properties, David continues, which is one of our subsidiaries. I finish his statement. Cold understanding washing through me. The summit of absurdity. My family selected a property I own without realizing it. Christine's expression shows concern. Victoria, I must mention the potential consequences if we proceed. Your family has legal options. Against me, their excluded daughter. The sound that escapes sounds unfamiliar. Please specify what my family risks losing. David touches his device and a new chart appears behind me. Venue, catering, flowers, photography, videography, planning services. He recites systematically. All advance payments would be surrendered per contractual stipulations. And the schedule, 19 days until the celebration, Christine confirms. If we initiate withdrawal procedures today, they'll have virtually no opportunity to find alternative vendors. Not at this caliber. I think of Rebecca's enthusiasm when she discovered the wisteria displays at Meadowbrook Manor. Her tearful conversation about the ideal rose-tinted lighting for photographs. Visions I helped realize while being deliberately removed from participation. David shifts uncomfortably. There's a business angle as well. This could impact our Denver expansion if it becomes public knowledge. Business magnate undermines sister's celebration isn't the publicity we need before planning commission hearings. Face the window. Chicago spreading beneath me. The domain I've built systematically while my family continued perceiving the child playing pretend. My reflection gazes back, composed and resolute. Begin systematic service terminations, I state, voice unwavering. Effective now. Christine and David exchange looks but acknowledge. They understand me sufficiently to know when a choice is irreversible. My office phone sounds the instant they exit. Miranda from Elegant Affairs. Her previous professional demeanor shattered by alarm. Ms. Harrison, there must be confusion. All the vendors are issuing cancellation letters. No confusion, I interrupt. The contracts are being enforced per their provisions. But your sister's celebration. My attendance apparently isn't required, just not my money. I terminate the call, settling into my seat. As vendors dispatch cancellation notices to my family, I question whether business achievement was genuinely worth sacrificing family bonds. Should I maintain my position on principle and allow them to experience the results of their choices, or discover a method to preserve both the celebration and my self-respect? What would you choose when those who should cherish you most repeatedly fail to acknowledge your value? The resolution waits in the approaching tempest of my family's coming awareness. They've never truly perceived me. Now they'll be forced to. The following morning at the office, my device vibrates against my desk repeatedly. Dad's contact flashes on the display once more. His sixth attempt since breakfast. I let it ring through to voicemail, then press the audio button to hear his recording. Victoria, this has escalated sufficiently. His voice trembles with barely suppressed fury. If these vendors don't restore their services by tomorrow noon, I'm involving my lawyer. You may believe you're being shrewd, but this is unlawful contract interference. I nearly find humor in the absurdity. He'd be taking legal action against his own daughter's enterprise. The sound dies as another call enters. Mom this time. Sweetheart, she starts, her voice sweet with manufactured worry. How could you destroy your sister's important day? What sort of individual does that to family? We taught you better values. I end the recording partway through her manipulation attempt and stare at the Chicago skyline. The morning haze has cleared, revealing a sharpness I wish I possessed internally. My assistant, Rachel, appears in the entrance with message notes. 3 calls from the Mitchells. They're associates of your parents. And Mr. Sterling from the Commerce Alliance wants to verify rumors about vendor issues with the Harrison wedding. They've been active, I murmur, taking the messages. There's more. Rachel hands me the morning lifestyle section from the Chicago Tribune, folded to emphasize a small piece. Reports suggest a puzzling vendor departure from the forthcoming Harrison-Matthews nuptials, leaving Chicago society speculating what disaster has struck one of the season's most awaited celebrations. I set the paper down cautiously as though it might singe my fingertips. I rescheduled your investor call for next week, Rachel adds. Christine thought you might require time to address this matter. Appreciated. Alone once more, I cancel additional appointments, recognizing I cannot concentrate when my device keeps illuminating with condemnations. The morning dissolves into crisis management, responding to calls from business contacts who've received panicked communications from my parents, characterizing me as spiteful and irrational. That evening, I sit with crossed legs on my apartment floor, computer balanced on my lap, the city lights spread below my high-rise windows like scattered diamonds. I've ordered delivery that remains untouched nearby as I browse through an archived family recording from Rebecca's 16th birthday. Victoria organized everything. Mom tells Aunt Sarah in the footage, her arm around Rebecca. She's always excelled at small gatherings. Small gatherings. The identical year I coordinated a benefit event for 700 attendees that generated over $1.8 million. I pause the recording and access my email. They're in documented form. 3 years of messages with extended relatives where my parents have consistently diminished my profession. Victoria's property business is progressing. Dad wrote to Uncle Michael last holiday season, never acknowledging that progressing meant expanding into a 5th region with income approaching 8 figures. My device pings with an update. Rebecca has shared on social media a somber filtered image of her engagement ring with a text. Sometimes the individuals who should cherish you most inflict the deepest wounds. Thankful for those who support me while selfish individuals sabotage others' joy for personal reasons. The responses overflow with supportive reactions and inquiries about what occurred. She doesn't identify me but doesn't require to. I open a fresh file and begin documenting. Every email, every message, every interaction where I was disregarded or belittled. Every dollar invested in Rebecca's celebration. Every vendor agreement. Every conversation. The evidence constructs a chronicle of a pattern I've permitted too long. The next morning, Rachel enters my office carrying a paper bag releasing the scent of sugar and vanilla when she places it on my desk. Your preferred selection from Amanda's bakery, she says, extracting a warm Danish. You appear exhausted. I confess, accepting the gift gratefully. Rachel leans against my desk, her expression softening. For what it merits, I would have excluded them from my celebration years earlier. The unexpected remark catches me mid-bite, and I nearly choke from laughing, the first authentic one in days. Rachel joins me, and briefly, the burden lifts from my shoulders. The lightness vanishes 30 minutes later when my father's voice echoes from the reception space. My family has appeared unannounced, their voices traveling down the corridor as Rachel tries unsuccessfully to maintain my closed-door protocol. She cannot avoid us indefinitely, Dad announces, his footsteps approaching. My office door opens abruptly. Dad enters first, followed by Mom and an expressionless Rebecca. Through the expansive windows behind me, the afternoon sunlight illuminates the scene of family discord. "What do you believe you're accomplishing?" Dad demands, his face crimson with outrage. I recline in my chair, hands positioned calmly on my desk. "Precisely what you demonstrated. Safeguarding my investments." Mom advances, her hand waving dismissively. "It's merely a wedding invitation, Victoria. Why create such drama? We assumed you'd be too occupied with your activities to attend regardless." Activities. I contemplate the term before reaching for my device. Let me display my activities. I retrieve the group message they established for wedding coordination, the one excluding me, and project it onto the wall display. Message after message materializes. Discussions of table arrangements, flower designs, menu choices. Mom sharing the payment confirmation for the venue advance. "Just charge it to our account. We can utilize Victoria's funds but claim it's from all of us." Dad's message. "She'll never discover. She's too absorbed in her small business pursuits." Color drains from their faces as their words occupy the wall behind me. "Did you assume I wouldn't uncover this?" Ask quietly. "Or did you simply not care?" Rebecca sinks into a chair, staring at the messages as though viewing them initially. Mom opens her mouth, closes it, then attempts again. "We were attempting to streamline matters," she manages weakly. But something has transformed in the space and within me. Observing their astonished expressions, understanding floods through me. I've invested years pursuing their approval, but I've constructed something they cannot dismiss or minimize further. I don't require their validation to command respect. The door opens as Christine and David enter, arms filled with folders. Christine, consistently professional, acknowledges my family before placing a slim portfolio on my desk. "The resolution you requested," she says, opening it to display a comprehensive proposal. David advances with a device showing images of the Rosewood estate, one of my smaller properties. "Everything can be arranged within the original schedule. We've confirmed availability with all replacement vendors." Dad observes this interaction, his expression transforming from anger to bewilderment. "You have a staff," he says, as though recognizing for the first time that I've built more than a pastime. "An exceptional one," I agree, standing taller. "They've prepared an alternative that preserves the celebration while protecting my dignity. Something you never considered." My executive team presents the resolution with exactness and assurance, offering what my family has only extracted. Solutions rather than ultimatums, respect rather than dismissal. In their presence, I feel my voice gain strength, my posture straighten. When they conclude, I open my desk drawer and remove a folder bearing the Harrison Enterprises emblem, a portfolio I prepared overnight, detailing my conditions. The Rosewood Estate, single day only, fundamental services provided. I slide the folder across the desk. My alternative proposition. As my family examines the document before them, I receive the message. I glance at the sender identification. Rebecca. I look up at my sister standing opposite me, device in hand. Her eyes meeting mine with an intensity one haven't witnessed since childhood. "I need to talk with you," the message states. Privately. I acknowledge her and she exits the office with my parents. 2 days pass before the breeze sweeps across Harbor Point Lodge's exterior terrace, carrying salt and triumph on its current. I've selected this seaside venue intentionally, My premier property with its sweeping ocean panoramas and refined luxury that generates 6 figures annually. The ideal setting for strategic confrontation. Rebecca arrives 20 minutes early, her vehicle entering the curved driveway where David waits to guide her. Through the expansive windows, I observe my sister's expression shift from puzzlement to wonder as she absorbs the magnificent architecture. The structure seems to grow naturally from the coastline rather than being built. Victoria, Rebecca steps onto the terrace, silk wrap fluttering around her neck. Her eyes expand, absorbing the infinity pool that seems to cascade directly into the ocean. This belongs to you. Welcome to Harbor Point. I gesture to the leather portfolio on the glass surface. Please be seated. The ocean pounds rhythmically beneath us, providing accompaniment to what must occur. I open the portfolio without introduction, presenting the initial document. This is the verification from Elegant Affairs removing me from your attendance roster. I slide it across the surface followed by a financial record. This displays my $55,000 contribution, which per Miranda was characterized as a gift without expectations. Rebecca's fingers shake slightly as she examines each page. I continue methodically presenting vendor agreements, termination notices, and the email exchange with Miranda. Each of these vendors has revoked services as of yesterday. The venue is unavailable. Catering, flowers, photography, all terminated. My voice remains level, factual. Color disappears from Rebecca's face as comprehension arrives. Mom and Dad claimed you were too busy to attend, that you had appointments in Denver that weekend. I own the venue, Rebecca. I own most of the vendors. Did you genuinely believe I wouldn't discover I'd been excluded from a celebration I substantially funded? Understanding spreads across her features like a wave. How much of this wedding sector do you actually command? Before I can respond, the terrace entrance bursts open. My parents charge through, father's face flushed above his casual shirt. What do you believe you're doing? He strides toward us, mother trailing behind. Rebecca, we've been attempting to reach you for hours. I'm revealing to my sister the reality. I rise slowly, reaching for the control on the surface. Since you've invested years concealing it from her. Father waves dismissively. This immature outburst over a wedding invitation. This isn't regarding an invitation. The wall behind me brightens as the concealed display activates. This concerns respect. The Harrison Enterprises structural chart appears. 15 premier venues across 6 regions, hospitality assets, vendor networks, and income forecasts. Father's mouth opens, then shuts. Victoria's just playing at business, he attempts, turning to Rebecca. Got fortunate with several properties. That's 387 staff members. I advance the display. 15 venues, 7 hotels, annual income of $34 million. This isn't fortune, Dad. This is what you refuse to acknowledge. Mother steps forward. Dear, we always understood you were doing well with your small enterprise. My small enterprise is valued higher than Dad's ever was. The words land like rocks in calm water. The invitation wasn't the offense. The offense was spending my funds while pretending I didn't exist. Rebecca stands abruptly. I need you both to exit. Rebecca, mother begins. Now my sister's voice carries an unfamiliar authority. I need to speak with Victoria alone. The silence after they depart feels like the calm center of a storm, temporary, charged with potential force. Rebecca turns to me, tears brightening her eyes. I didn't understand any of it. That was the intention. I closed the portfolio. They ensured you didn't. The terrace entrance opens again, but this time Christine and David enter, each carrying professional presentations. Christine nods professionally at Rebecca. Ms. Harrison, we've prepared the agreements for the Rosewood estate. She places her portfolio on the surface. It's available for your original date. Everything has been arranged. David adds his documentation beside hers. We've compiled a complete vendor portfolio ready to implement with 3 weeks' notice. Everything from your original arrangement has been duplicated with modifications for the new location. Rebecca observes them with growing comprehension. Ms. Harrison, she repeats softly, noticing how they address me with deference, not the dismissive tone our parents consistently used. Appreciated, Christine, David. I gesture toward the seats. Please guide Rebecca through the possibilities. As they outline the revised wedding arrangement with calm precision, I notice the shift in my sister's bearing, straightening, leaning forward with focused attention. For the first time, she's perceiving me not as her overlooked sister, but as the executive our parents never acknowledged. My device vibrates with incoming attempts an hour later. Mother, father, mother again. The tone of their voicemails has transformed from demanding to imploring. Over recent hours, their society acquaintances have begun asking inquiries about complications with the celebration. Father's business contacts, previously unaware of my achievement, are expressing astonishment at discovering Victoria Harrison's business domain. Is this authentic? Rebecca asks when Christine finishes, gesturing to the alternative wedding arrangements. You accomplish this after everything. The Rosewood estate is yours if you desire it. David will coordinate everything. I meet her eyes directly. But we need to establish conditions. The family assembly is scheduled tomorrow at my headquarters. As Rebecca looks at me with fresh understanding, I wonder, should I simply restore the original wedding arrangements to spare her suffering, or stand firm on my conditions to finally establish limits with my family? Sometimes compassion feels like weakness, but sometimes strength requires forgiveness. The ocean crashes beneath us, constant and uncompromising. Like the truth. Victoria, Rebecca says finally. I'd like to visit the Rosewood estate. I acknowledge David, who begins collecting the agreements. This isn't triumph yet, just the initial recognition of a battlefield that has existed for years. My device vibrates again. Another parental attempt to plead rather than command. The balance is shifting, but the conflict isn't finished. Has only just commenced. The following day at headquarters, the family attorney's case opens with military exactness on my conference surface. My father settles into the seat directly opposite me, examining his timepiece repeatedly, a nervous habit I've noticed since childhood. Whenever he senses control diminishing, Mother positions herself beside him, her forced smile as fragile as the jewelry around her neck. We've composed a reasonable arrangement, Father says, sliding a document across the polished surface. You restore the original vendors and venue, and we'll ensure you receive a proper invitation. I don't touch the paper. Through the expansive windows behind them, Chicago's skyline forms a glittering background that seems to emphasize the distance between us. Them still perceiving the daughter requiring their approval. Me seeing clearly for perhaps the first time. An arrangement suggests equal footing, I say, my voice steady. There's nothing equal about spending $55,000 of my funds while excluding me from the event. Mother leans forward, her fragrance the same scent she's worn since my childhood. Suddenly overwhelming. Consider what people will express, Victoria. The family reputation is apparently valued at precisely $55,000, I finish for her. Plus applicable fees. My father's jaw tightens. You've made your statement with this small business demonstration. Now it's time to be reasonable. The word small hangs between us. The identical diminutive he's attached to every accomplishment I've ever presented. Small business, small hobby, small Victoria playing at achievement. I press a button on my device. Rachel, please bring in the portfolio. While we wait, neither parent apologizes. Neither acknowledges the fundamental wrong of their actions. They simply expect compliance, as they consistently have. My assistant enters with a professional portfolio, placing it before me with the exactness of someone who comprehends precisely what this moment represents. I open it to the initial page. A financial statement. Harrison Enterprises generated $77 million last year, I say, turning the portfolio toward them. That's approximately 6 times what your company ever produced in its peak year, Dad. His eyes widen, disbelief battling with dawning comprehension. I advance to the next page. A Financial Times profile. I deliberately minimized our family connection in every interview. Not because I was embarrassed of you, but because I thought it might damage your pride to be known as Victoria Harrison's parents rather than the reverse. Another page, Property Assets. Another structural chart. With each turn, their expressions shift from confusion to shock. I don't require your permission to be successful, I say quietly. I require your respect to be family. The conference room entrance opens. Rebecca steps in, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. David stands beside her. His presence a silent confirmation that he's shown her everything. The true extent of my contribution, the systematic dismissal, the domain I've built while they weren't observing. My conditions are non-negotiable, I continue, closing the portfolio. The Rosewood Estate, 75 guests maximum, $170,000 paid in advance. That's unreasonable, Father sputters. That's market rate, I correct him. Actually, it's a family reduction. Rebecca moves to stand beside me, not them. The shift is small but seismic. I'd like a tour, she says softly. Of everything. 30 minutes pass before we stand in the main ballroom of my flagship venue. Crystal fixtures reflect light across marble floors that cost more than my father's first property. Staff members approach with questions, each deferring to me with a respect my family has never witnessed. Ms. Harrison, the Peterson wedding requires approval on the custom lighting arrangement. Ms. Harrison, Denver contacted about accelerating the acquisition schedule. Ms. Harrison, your investment team is waiting in the North Conference Room whenever you're available. With each interaction, my father grows quieter, his shoulders gradually losing their rigid certainty. Mother wanders toward a display featuring awards and media coverage, her fingers trailing over glass that protects evidence of achievement she never bothered to acknowledge. When we reach my office, Mother notices it immediately, the only personal item in a space otherwise dedicated to business. A family photograph from Rebecca's graduation. All 4 of us smiling, my arm around my sister's shoulders. You kept this here? She asks, voice uncharacteristically small. Some things matter more than others, I answer simply. Rebecca steps forward, taking my hands in hers. I want you to be my maid of honor, she says. Not just an attendee, if you'll still consider it. The request catches me off guard, warmth blooming in my chest despite all my careful defenses. I'd be honored, I say. Then add the boundary I should have established years ago. But only if it's because you want me there. I always did, she whispers. I just didn't know about any of this, about what they accomplished. Part 11. Father stands by the window looking out at the city, but seeing something else entirely. When he turns, something has shifted in his expression, the beginnings of recognition I've waited decades to receive. We saw what we wanted to see, he says finally, the admission falling from him like a burden. We never really observed. In my outer office, Mother silently writes a payment for the Rosewood estate, her hand trembling slightly. No complaints about the cost, no further attempts at manipulation. The power has shifted not because I demanded it, but because reality finally broke through their carefully constructed narrative. Rebecca embraces me, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know, she repeats against my shoulder. I should have known. Over her shoulder, I catch David's eye and acknowledge once. Make it flawless, I instruct him. Despite everything, because that's what family accomplishes. Even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, they discover a path forward. Not by forgetting but by finally seeing clearly. On the wedding day, The morning sun streams through the Rosewood Estates glass conservatory as I direct my team with hand signals they've learned to interpret like second nature. White roses cascade from suspended arrangements, transforming the space into a botanical sanctuary. My venue, one of many in my portfolio, has never appeared more immaculate. "Ms. Harrison, the champagne delivery is here," my events coordinator says, device in hand. "Appreciated, Marcus. Have them use the service entrance and begin immediate cooling." My voice carries the quiet authority I've invested years cultivating. I catch sight of my parents entering the grand entrance. Their posture different now, tentative, almost deferential. Dad acknowledges me from across the room instead of offering the dismissive shoulder pat I'd grown accustomed to at family gatherings. "Victoria," Mom approaches, wearing an expression I rarely see directed at me, a mixture of pride tinged with regret. Everything appears absolutely magnificent. "Mom, appreciated. Let me introduce you to my executive team." I gesture toward the group of professionals who've stood beside me through everything. "This is Christine, my chief legal counsel. David, operations coordinator. Marcus manages all our Great Lakes region venues." Mom's eyes widen slightly as each person greets her with the same respectful "Mrs. Harrison" and knowing looks that speak volumes about where their loyalties lie. Later, crystal glasses reflect prismatic light across white linen as I rise to deliver my toast. The same family members who once talked over me at Sunday brunches now lean forward, attentive. "Rebecca and James," I begin, my voice steady. "Family is complicated. Legacy even more so." I pause, meeting my father's gaze. "You don't build domains out of spite. You build them with vision, then decide who gets to share the view." Applause ripples through the room. Rebecca stands, moving to embrace me, microphone still in hand. "Not just my sister," she says, voice thick with emotion, "but my inspiration." Her words hang in the air, vindication I'd stopped believing would ever come. After the toasts, Christine and David find me on the terrace overlooking the harbor. The sunset paints the water copper and gold, a perfect backdrop for what feels like my own personal victory. "To flawless execution," David says, raising his glass. "And bulletproof contracts," Christine adds with a knowing smile. I touch my glass to theirs. "You two are more family to me than they've been in years." The admission comes easily now, without the sting it once carried. To boundaries that build bridges, not barriers. Months later, Sunday brunch unfolds in my penthouse. Expansive windows framing the Chicago skyline, I conquered one structure at a time. My father leans forward at the dining table I selected for its perfect dimensions. "What do you think about expanding into the Southwest?" he asks, his tone genuinely curious. "With your business model, Phoenix could be untapped potential." From the living room, I hear my mother's voice. "My daughter, the CEO," she tells her friend, proudly displaying a magazine feature I'm certain she's memorized. My device chimes with a message from Rebecca. The wedding photographs have gone viral, each venue tagged with my company's name. A second message follows. "You didn't just fund this celebration. You held it together." I see that now. As I welcome my family into my home on my terms, I wonder if true reconciliation comes from forgiveness or from finally being seen for who you really are. Is it enough that they recognize my achievement now? Or should genuine family bonds be unconditional from the start? What would you choose? Embrace this new relationship or maintain protective boundaries?